And when you're looking at honors, physics, and biology, will they take both of those their freshman year?
No.
Okay.
One or the other.
It's one or the other.
Yes.
And then it becomes more of when can you catch up and take.
Well, it's not a matter of catching
Yeah.
up, because it's usually the students that think that they want to take AP Bio will take honors biology.
Okay.
And,
AP Calc?
excuse me?
Do you have AP Chemistry?
Oh, yeah.
No, we don't. No.
Chemistry's overrated.
I love chemistry.
I'm kidding. So at that point, you can either go. You kind of at your freshman level, you're kind of picking where you want to end up.
Yeah.
And then decide.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other
Just wanted to
questions?
see how that went.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the changes, the summary of Georgetown High School Program of Studies proposed revisions for the 2011-12 school year,
So moved.
as presented, sorry.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion, a second, any more discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank
So,
you.
Peter, no point more.
Thank you,
I would
Peter.
like the
Thank you.
administrators to come up front, in case there are any questions from the school committee. So just come on up front and sit around here, and that way we can answer questions as we go through this cut list. I think maybe what makes sense is there are a couple of memos in here a couple that were requested by the school committee, but I think if we work big to small, right? So if we start with, as you know, last week, Last week, we presented a level services budget. The consensus of opinion was that we wanted to work with the recommendation that we got informally from the Finance Advisory Board to look at what other town departments have been asked to look at, which is a level funded budget. Now there's another statistic that we always pay attention to, and that's required net school spending. So I think if we look at the memo that Terry did, that talks about net school spending and level funded budget, and just talk about how we got to the number that we got to with this cut list.
What moment?
Oh, was that last week?
Last
was
one.
last
All right.
Yeah, we covered that.
So we covered it. So what we covered though was
Maybe we
that
go
the
with
depth,
this.
that the difference between level funding, exactly what we got from the town last year, and this required net school spending number is $14,729.
Correct.
Right. So what we did is we worked with that number, the net school spending number, which
So
is
it's
$14,000
$14,000
higher than
This year.
level funded, than the level funding we got last year. All right? So we start there. I think, Ann Blythe, you asked for this sheet,
Oh, right.
which is the
roll.
summary, which is the roll-up. So this will show you the breakdown of the budget that we produced by site, right? And it also shows you the FTE changes over the last several years.
So the number that we're looking at, just so that we all know, it's the 11,523 plus 14.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and I just want to go back through my memo, because the number is actually a little higher than that.
Okay.
because you
Here's your
have-
memo.
Because we're
Here's a memo.
25,000 too
No,
low.
because there's an assumption that also this year you're gonna be 13 shy. So you have a total of 27,000,
Okay.
okay? Which is how we get to the figure of a target budget of 11,550,884.
884. Okay, and that's at the top of your cut list,
That's at the top of the cut list,
all right?
as a reference point.
Right, and so what this means is that if we went from level services down to required net school spending of the target budget of 11,550,884, then we needed to come up with $872,089 in potential budget reductions.
And bear in mind that we've said this a million times, but just so that everyone knows, of that 872, about 723,000 is stimulus money that we received. Is that number right, Terry?
Correct. Yes.
So the 872 is in fact a real number, but 723 of that was money that we received from the federal government last year.
Correct.
So no one should have this takeaway message that
This year.
Yeah, I'm sorry. In this year's budget. So the idea is not that suddenly we're asking for $1 million more. It's
Correct.
money that we did receive.
Correct. So that's where we started. And so, The process that we used to make these reductions was that we talked about, based on the school committee's priorities, based on our conversations about our priorities, based on some information we have received from the public, we took the approach that we needed to make the cuts to protect the core of the curriculum. There were some areas we did not touch because they've already been cut below levels. So in the orange notes, I try to go through that a little bit for you, because I think for the benefit of the public, I think it's really important to remind people that, at least, I can only speak for the 3 years that I've been here. I have to say that if these cuts are implemented, and again, you always have to be careful, because you don't want people thinking these are scare tactics, and in the past, I think there's been some skepticism about the school district and putting things on the list that weren't actually going to be cut, and I can tell you that, you know, we made the decisions that we made, understanding that if the money is what we have, these are the cuts that we're gonna recommend, because while they're all painful, they're, we think, the least impactful to the core curriculum, all right?
And I understand your sensitivity about them being scare tactics, but the fact is, we are very thin already in so
That's
many
right.
areas.
And it is
Right,
scary.
so that's
This
why,
just shows how much thinner we're gonna get to the point of, I don't
exactly.
know what the word would be, and to me, I mean, this should be in the paper right here. This is what people should
Well,
should understand.
that's why I wrote it, and I think if, you know, before we just read the cuts, I think it is important to have a context here.
There's no precedent.
And that is that, you know, we all agree on quality of education, and honestly, I have to say, in the town of Georgetown, I think the students get a great quality of education with the money that we've been given. And it is about, the kids will learn, and the teachers will teach, and the system will go on. But that doesn't mean that it's at the level that it should be, nor is it the level that our students deserve.
Nor is it at the level it has been at in the
In the
past.
past.
Well, I think
And I'm not
that's
saying
huge.
that, you know, no one's, you know, living up to the standards they were at in the past. We don't have the capability to do
Right.
that. We don't have the infrastructure, excuse me.
Yeah, I do. As far as the scare tactic piece of it, you know, we gotta get over that part of
I
it
know,
anyway. I mean,
exactly.
the last time I think that was maybe a legitimate argument was in '04. So we're talking, we're 8 budgets later now.
Right,
Any cut that we said we were gonna make since 2004, we've made it.
right.
We had 2 failed overrides. We
Right.
did everything that we said we were
Right.
gonna do in that process. So, you know, if the public wants to go back with old 20, 25, 30-year rhetoric, go
Right.
nuts with it, but the bottom line is they're gonna kill their school system in the process.
Right, so,
I'd much rather be scared today than ticked off tomorrow.
right,
And that's what people are
again,
gonna
the
do.
purpose of the presentation we're doing for you is not to have anybody in the public think, well, they're just trying to say these things and, you know, they're not gonna happen. They will happen, and we just want people to understand what the impact is, right? Because those are choices that get made, you know,
So,
at the town
can
level.
I just ask some clarifying questions very quickly?
Yes.
If I understand
Do you
this
want-
chart.
Okay,
So, we're looking at $872,000,
yes,
872,089
yes,
to be exact. And we have been cutting supplies, transferring things to revolving accounts,
right.
jacking up user fees to where they're almost 100% self-sufficient. So now that we did all that, we have $69,706, what I would call non-personnel related items
Right.
of any substance.
Right.
And then the remaining $802,383,
right,
that's all people.
right.
Right. So and now I have that part. Now if I translate that into your last page, we're talking about 13.82 professional full-time equivalents,
Right.
5.2 support staff. So we're looking at almost 20 people being let go,
That's right.
Yes.
Correct.
20 FTEs.
20 FTEs,
Roundly, yeah.
which could be more than 20 people, depending on how they are fractioned off.
Correct.
Okay. And every one of those people would represent 15,000+ to the town unemployment benefits.
Right. Well, it
18.
depends on, it
18.
depends on.
Just give me a round
Oh,
number.
unemployment benefits,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I was thinking health
18,000
insurance.
if it's full-time.
About
Yeah.
18,000.
Okay.
So 360.
And they're gonna get, so they'll be eligible for COBRA as well, that, all
Yes.
depending on how that
Yes.
works out.
Right.
But they PL that themselves.
So, I
So,
just,
so we're talking about possibly 20
yes,
FTEs.
that's right. So I think for the benefit of the public, and I know the committee knows this, I know the committee knows, because you've been living this for, you know,
2
for
years.
many
Forever.
years, longer than,
Several years.
than even we have.
Right.
I miss those Monday morning
But I
meetings.
think, you know, we maintained the core. And as George said, I think we did it through very creative redirection. We use that word all the time, but it's true. We did maintain a lot of programs and services and move forward through redirection. And we utilized the availability of one-time grants, the stimulus being only one of them. But as we've been able to get grants to start programs, we've definitely done that. But we haven't, in our opinion, we've cut things that have mattered and there's been significant impacts, but they haven't hit the core of the programs. This discussion we're gonna have tonight hits.
But in some ways we have. That we've got principals doing lunch duty, and
I
we've
just want,
got.
can I just go through this, because it's
Yeah, we
gonna
need to get
help
through
you.
this.
Okay.
It's gonna help you. So the infrastructure of our schools, which is what you're speaking to, is definitely at the bare bones. We don't have enough secretaries or clerical staff. Mary Ellen, is by herself in the middle school. We have, that's one of the areas, because if you remember, the strategy over the last 3 years has been first to protect the core and protect the people who are working directly with students to the extent that we could. So we don't have enough, clerical staff. We don't have enough custodians, which we know, and our buildings are showing that, right? Some of our own custodians now are turning down overtime because they're so burned out by the extra time that they have to work now because we've cut back. Obviously, our buildings aren't clean. We don't have the equipment. The number of equipment pieces were put into the original budget. We took them out because they're not level services. We squeak by with the supplies that we need every time, and the buildings are used day and night by the public. So we're stretched in that area. So we did not touch that area in this budget. Last year, we began to cut programs, as you know, in the first round of cuts. It was the first time that I saw we cut, but we are in this round of cuts, we are affecting class sizes, which we'll talk to you about. We are further reducing elective programs, which we'll also talk about. We're increasing study halls at the middle high school. Peter's talking about, do we need to do open campus for seniors because we don't have enough staff to really staff the study halls. And we are severely jeopardizing high school accreditation. We've provided an impact statement for each of the proposed reductions that you have. And, I have to say this, I think I would be remiss if I didn't, and the administrators would remind me of this, if I didn't say that really we don't support, as an administrative team, many of these cuts at all. We are making them because we are the administrative team, and we are doing the best we can to protect the resources that we have, and we will continue to do that. We don't have the tools our teachers need. Classroom spaces can't support large class sizes in many cases. And the level of support staff for our students, particularly as MCAS and other accountability measures have ratcheted up, those are really, to make headway with kids who really need it, it's more intensive in terms of the level of support they need. And we are actually affecting that in the budget cuts that we're putting forth here. We're eliminating reading coaches, which we believe in, as an important core program for our teachers and our students, and we're reducing our literacy support. The administrative team, as Eric was saying, is stretched thin as well. In the middle high school, we have one athletic director and dean who really only has time to assist at the high school level. The middle school principal has 2 hours of secretarial time and no assistant principal. She and the guidance counselor do the daily lunch duty, an hour and a half a day, because we don't have any money for monitors to handle those duties. This takes time away, obviously, from the duties of the principal. Pembroke principal has 540 students and no assistant principal. Well, this isn't a position we funded in the past. It is a position we'd add if we had the money to do it, because it is needed. The full-time reading coach at this point is needed and is on the chopping block. That reading coach, however, provided a lot of opportunities for job-embedded professional development, support, ongoing, and now the principals will have to absorb that as well. Pearlie principal, the same thing in terms of the literacy coach. She will also be losing her school adjustment counselor, which will have a greater impact in what falls again to the administrative team. Kristen's picking up and managing all grants, all these new national standards, curriculum implementation, district-wide committees, managing data warehouse, looking at technology, professional development, EPIMS, Title I, and now assisting the principals in running data teams and teacher evaluations. She collects, manages, and reports student performance along with the principals. I mean, these are jobs, but people have a lot of responsibilities within them. Special education director, I detail all of their duties there, and the director of finance. We know that that's been hard with all the responsibilities of the finance on top of the custodial maintenance. So those are areas we're looking at maybe redesigning to save some money, but again, it will result in the work doesn't go away. It will just mean